Hey guys, what's up? So it's been a while since my last video, so I'm gonna give you something special, which is gonna be my fall list, fragrance list for this year. I didn't have a summer list, and I know that these are the kinds of videos that everybody wants. I generally prefer doing single reviews, but I know that's my preference. But you guys want to see lists so that you can explore different scents. So that's what we're doing today, and I'm not going through like hundreds of fragrances trying to find the best fall scent. The way I kind of discover and use fragrances is every season I also am looking for fragrances that I'm going to wear that season. So I buy and wear things depending on the weather. So these are really my picks, real-time fragrances that I've either been enjoying or look forward to wearing more. And hopefully, these will be kind of relevant picks for you as well. So why don't we get started right away with a powerhouse scent from one of my favorite houses, which is Ormonde. And this is Ormonde Montabaco Intensivo. Now this is the intense version of one of their kind of hit releases, all-time bestsellers, which is Montabaco. It's essentially just a more concentrated version, but I do think it's a little bit different. I never owned the original, so it's hard for me to give you a direct comparison, but from my memory, I do think this intense version is oddly enough a little bit fresher, although you do definitely sense that it is a more intense, concentrated, rich scent. There's a more kind of uplifting, airy quality about it, and that might be because of the higher concentration, you're really enhancing the smell of the scent, which sets out to be an airy, beautiful scent based on the main note of tobacco flower. And Ormonde is all about, for me, using the highest quality ingredients. You definitely detect that it's natural. It is truly, a perfume that is, I think, I guess, honoring like these ingredients. So this one, as far as I know, tobacco flower is predominantly the main ingredient here, and then the other are really supporting notes. So in a way, this scent, you could kind of, and by the way, I'm gonna do a full review of this. That was actually supposed to be my next video, but in a way, this could be considered a leather fragrance, and it's also a tobacco fragrance, right? Because that is the main note. But there's so much more going on here. It's not your typical, like what you might think as tobacco, which is smoky, a little bit dirty, musty. This is more floral, and in fact, it's a really herbaceous kind of scent, and that really is what the smell of, the natural smell of tobacco flower is, and that's what's so special about this scent. It's actually wearable, in my opinion, all seasons, although because of how highly concentrated it is, it's around 40 something percent, 45, 46, so it's a little thick for the hottest days, but otherwise, based on how airy it is, it's a beautiful scent all year round, but really shines in the fall, I think. And tobacco is one of those notes that I turn to in the fall. Tobacco, incense, maybe a little vanilla, and amber, of course. So like I said, it's a really airy scent. In fact, has an air note listed, and also has this kind of subtle sweetness. It's almost like the house DNA that you detect with Ormonde is a smooth sweetness, not overly sweet. And of course you get this kind of tea-like accord in here as well. So really balanced, kind of very sophisticated standout scent. Alright, next is another niche fragrance, very well known and respected. It's Chergui by Serge Lutens. And Chergui, I actually initially didn't like it and didn't understand why there was hype around this scent. And look at the color of that. It's basically exactly how it looks, right? The smell is exactly how it looks. So it's another one of those that's traditionally, I think, considered like a tobacco scent, but so much more. In fact, I think this is, I would call this a gourmand fragrance, and also, it's also an amber based fragrance as well. So put it in that kind of category with stuff like MFK Grand Soir. So very rich, cakey, sweet, definitely sweeter than what I just showed you, Ormonde Jayne, and it's on the sweeter side. But what makes this work for me, and I don't generally like sweet fragrances, is that this scent, while being sweet, also has this kind of very mysterious dustiness about it that's really, of course, the name, it's supposed to reflect the desert. For me, it doesn't really evoke the desert per se, but something exotic, there's something spicy in here. There's a bit of this like cherry-like sweetness. It's overall has a very honeyed texture about it, which is so sensual, I think. It doesn't smell straight up like honey, but I could, this kind of molasses-like, smooth, flowing kind of richness. That's how I kind of, feel about this scent. That's how I characterize this scent. A smooth, ambery scent. And then there is this kind of, I used to say there's this almost like cannabis-like accord, a little bit of a medicinal touch to it, which is what threw me off initially, but really that's what makes this scent a complex scent and smell like nothing else. Nothing else on the market. So I like that it's really its own thing. Alright guys, next up on the list is a designer that I've been enjoying recently. Now, you might see a lot of the flankers, other flankers of this fragrance in fall lists, because there are sweeter versions and more ambery versions, but my pick actually is Gentleman Only. And I just found out, the name is Gentleman and not Gentleman, like the original from 1974. But this one, I was actually very impressed by. I've been kind of gravitating back towards designers that are still classy, and that do something different and are, a little bit different from the most mass market kind of fragrances that you see in department stores and so on. So I think this does just that, right? It's not the most well known of the Givenchy line, the Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, and then everything, the Reserve Privé. All those are kind of more visible in the department stores, but this one, the idea behind it, it's supposed to, I forget the release date, but it's in the last decade, right? So it's supposed to be an homage or pay homage to the original. And now I haven't smelled the original. That's on my list to try. Let me know if you guys are fans of the original. But this one, what I noticed right away is it's a kind of a blue fragrance, and it reminds me of Bleu de Chanel. I think because this also carries an incense note that gives it, I don't know, yeah, that kind of masculinity and depth. And overall, it's a woody, aromatic scent. A modern scent, right? Like everything else. But what is different is it has that little bit of like Burberry touch kind of smell too, using violet leaf. There is more, there's a little bit of smokiness here, but the overall scent is creamier than, I remember like Bleu de Chanel. I don't own it currently, but it's not as harsh. It's a little bit smoother, maybe a little bit more mature smelling, and that's why it works for me. But yeah, this is a must try. There is that little kind of difference, X factor in here that makes it different from all other blue fragrances. It reminds me the way that it's kind of, again, airy. It reminds me also of Rassasi Havas, which I spoke very, very highly of in my review. That one, but this is a little bit, this is easier to wear. I think this is gonna appeal to more people than Havas, and it's just intense enough. It's got also really good performance. And when I smelled this the first time, the first thing I thought of right away was, oh, this is a signature scent. So an everyday, all season, very, very versatile, fresh scent that, yeah, will draw compliments, I think, and you're not going to offend anybody with this kind of scent. So very classy as well. So absolutely recommend. And because of that woodiness, the depth, the thickness about it, you know, I recommend it for the fall. Next is another big house fragrance from the classic line from Hermes, and it's Equipage Geranium. Now this is done by Jean-Claude Elena. The original Equipage, I believe, was Guy Robert, whose name I associate with Amouage Goldman, which is a beautiful scent too. So I can see where this kind of classic opulent DNA is coming from. So partly from the era, but also maybe Guy Robert style. And this scent, I realized after wearing it for a while, this is very much in the same kind of ballpark as New York Intense by Nikolai, which is, you know, a very hyped and loved fragrance, and which I reviewed as well. But New York Intense, it's a very strong scent. It's a classic masculine that's creamy, citrusy. This is very similar, but I don't know. Wearing it, I found that this is more wearable. It's a little tad more old school than something like New York Intense, which has kind of modernized that overall DNA. But what you get here, now forget like the geranium, because I'm not saying that there's definitely the geranium scent, but I think, I don't know, the name, putting geranium in the name made it sound like it was a big twist on something, but really I think this itself should be the original kind of fragrance. What I mean by that, sorry, is I haven't tried the original, but this fragrance is perfect as is, in terms of the density, in terms of the freshness, the balance, the citrus in the opening, balanced by this uplifting, a little bit minty kind of geranium, and then overall this smooth kind of sweetness underneath, which is that classic fragrance style from the 60s and on, and actually into the 70s too. So it's got that, right? If you like fragrances from the rest of this collection like Bel Ami, then you will definitely like this. But this is going to be a more everyday fragrance as compared to Bel Ami. Now, you know, very good for, like, I think especially good for formal settings, professional settings. You know, it's not really a casual scent. So that's the thing to know about this. Very elegant, but in some ways something like New York Intense works better in a casual setting. This has that more mature DNA about it that makes it a little bit more elevated in terms of occasion. But then what's really, I guess, what keeps this from getting too old and stuffy is the orange in here. It's got this very nicely balancing orange from the top and through, you know, as the fragrance dries down too, you still get this orange tinge that makes this bright. And so I love this scent, and I think it's a great fall scent as well. Okay, so number 5, I believe, it is Dior Original, and I did pick up the France released Dior Original because I wanted the original DNA, right, without going vintage. So this scent, you know, I owned Dior Homme Intense before and I loved it. I bought this because Dior Homme Intense, while, you know, amazing, I found that sometimes I got sick of the dry down that becomes a little touch too sweet and a little touch too chocolatey. It's actually not that sweet, but, you know, there was something about it where I missed the opening, right? And this, from kind of I'm not testing this side by side, but again, from my memory, it opens up pretty much identical to Dior Homme Intense from what I remember. And it's got that same very strong iris accord. and kind of very buttery nature about it. So if you smelled anything, and either of those, the original or Dior Homme Intense, you'll know. So it's got that, but it keeps that throughout the whole life of the scent. So I found that even as the fragrance has already dried down, it's still projecting, and it's projecting that smell, which I think I preferred over that kind of transition into a more I guess creamy, kind of chocolatey dry down that Dior Homme Intense has. But again, I think I might flip back and forth. I might actually prefer that. So either of those would be a good choice. And also I'll mention Dior Homme 2020 that I had reviewed in the past, that I also think is a great release. And in fact, for many people, that might actually be the better pick. Totally different scent, but I think more compliment drawing, because it's more mass appealing. It's interesting in its own right. It is kind of more abstract woody interpretation, I would say. Not so much focused on iris, but it's really a lot of Aesop super and woods, and it's a really really nice, pleasant smell. Almost like there's, can't say animalic, but it's like the smell of skin. It's very sensual because of that. So now I'm gonna mention a couple that I don't have bottles of, that I've either gone through samples of or that are on my buy list right now. So first up is Herod. I still got some left in my 10 ml from the Discovery set, but Herod is one of those, I think, that's just worth the hype. It really is so alluring. It's so delicious of a scent, and I think what makes it really stand out is it's basically a vanilla incense fragrance. And I don't typically like vanilla scents, but the way that it's balanced in Herod, I think is just perfect. It's not too sweet, and the incense is strong enough actually in Herod that it gives it that, the smokiness rounds everything out. And for me, it might be because of my memories of wearing it outdoors when I was traveling in Oregon, but it takes me to the outdoors, Herod. And I think it's a beautiful fragrance to wear in the outdoors, in the cool outdoors especially. And there's also kind of a festive smell about Herod that I think also could remind you of holiday season, and it's just a nice sweet scent that is not necessarily only for nights out. Sorry. It's really, I think, pretty versatile. I wouldn't. It might be like a little too in your face, maybe for like an office setting. Like it'll catch too much attention. But again, catching too much, if that's what you're going for, right? So you're not in the office, you're on a date or something. It's a perfect fragrance. Very, very well done by Olivier Peychaud. The next fragrance is one that I actually myself have to sample some more. But I've tried it in the store a couple times. It's from the brand Aesop, Marrakech Intense. And that's just the version that happened to be on the counter. Marrakech Intense. It's based on cinnamon and cloves, but I don't think those two main notes necessarily capture the smell. When I hear those notes, I think of Costume National Homme, which I really, really love, and I've mentioned a lot on my channel, but that Marrakech Intense is a little different. I think in some ways it's more wearable. Something like Costume National Homme, while being a really perfect, outstanding scent, it's very rich. I feel, and it's an eau de parfum. Both are eau de parfums. Marrakech Intense has this kind of, as I remember, a rosy smell to it that balances the overall. The spices and the amber accord, and so again, I don't know, it's that I think that combination works really well, right? A rose amber plus some spices, and that's what I got from Marrakech Intense. But I'll test it out some more and see if it's actually worth it. Okay, the next fragrance is one I've talked about. I don't know if I formally reviewed it. I think I mentioned it from Comme des Garcons. It's Hinoki, and I think it's the best wood release from Comme des Garcons. Comme des Garçons has a lot of wood-based fragrances. It's really interesting. You've got Wonderwood, which is a really hyped scent. Then you've got Two Man. I think Two and Two Man, but Two Man is the woodier version, I would say. Then you've got Hinoki, and you've also got something called Sequoia. So a lot to pick from. But I found that while Wonderwood, and I did own that one too, there's some, I think Wonderwood ended up being like a little too sandalwood heavy, and it had this kind of real odd, to me at least, bittersweetness about it, and almost a slight makeup-y texture that I didn't like. So whereas Hinoki, it was more of that natural wood smell that I imagined. Takes you right into the outdoors. It's supposed to reflect the Japanese Hinoki, cypress, and yeah, I think it was exactly what I was looking for. This kind of natural wood, calming, woody scent, and I think it's a must-try for everyone. It's also a well-known scent and highly spoken about. And the last one, I haven't really come back to it for a while, but when I had tested it in the past, very, very well-known scent, Dior Ombre Nuit. I think it's still, despite how much it was talked about, despite it being very well-known and probably very popular too, I think it's a great, it might be even a must-try or must-have, because I still haven't come across anything that is so wearable as Ombre Nuit in terms of amber fragrances, and it's different because of that. And this is where Francois Demachy, I think, excels. All his fragrances, somehow they're very easy to like, very wearable, and they have that really sparkling quality about it, which Ombre Nuit had, and that was my favorite part of it. I was wearing it in the summer, and it worked, but of course it has it's an amber based scent, so that's why I'm putting it in this fall list. But Ombre Nuit still not too feminine, not too masculine, like just right down the middle, still one of the best simple and yet just perfectly done scents that I think is a must try. So there you go, guys. My 10 picks for this year. Let me know what you think about these and other suggestions that you might have, and I'll see you in the next videos. Bye.